Hello, puppies and kittens. I recently got an email from someone telling me in all caps, I can logically prove you're wrong about the possibility of God. That was Bryce Barton. And Bryce, what did you want to tell me to clarify the point that you were going to make?
Yeah. So there's a phrase that you say often whenever somebody says like, "Oh, well, everything's possible," and it's like, "Well, except for everything that is impossible." And you would say, in order to say that something is possible, you need like I'm paraphrasing, like objectively verified phenomenon indicating that such a possibility exists, and
A
lacking,
precedent or parallel or
yeah,
verified phenomenon.
yeah, and without that, there is no possibility, and so you
You
could
have a
say that
list of
there's
zero possibilities.
right. Right. And so you would then say, therefore, there's no possibility for God. Right. So that phrase, I would say all the time. I said it for years. And someone recently, like just a few months ago, used logical steps to show me that that is invalid. It's fallacious.
Okay.
And yeah,
So they went from zero possibility to one or more possibilities in these logical steps.
no.
Okay, so after the logical steps, we're still at zero possibilities.
Yeah.
So there's still no possibility.
We can't say that. I'm saying that you
Wait.
saying that is
Okay,
incorrect.
so we can make up numbers for things we don't know the numbers for. We can say
May,
that things exist when we don't have any evidence that they exist.
may I show you how I discovered that this is fallacious reasoning?
Please.
Great. So I said essentially exactly what you said on Facebook, that there's no possibility of a God, and people are like, you can't say that because anything's possible. And I'm like, no, you need to present that a possibility exists. And somebody said, well, what about things that you don't know that are possible? Like, okay, well,
then you can't. If you don't know about them, you can't say they're there. You can't
right.
claim them.
Exactly. And that's what I said. And they're like, okay, well, if you have evidence to indicate that a possibility exists, you could say something's possible, right? If you don't have evidence for something, you could say it's not possible. This is my response to them, actually. And if you have evidence against something, you could say it's impossible.
Well, that's not what we're arguing. We're arguing the number of possibilities that are currently known.
This is why I wanted to clarify. This is what I'm arguing, that the statement that you say over and over again, I've learned, is fallacious.
Okay. And the way you're going to reason me out of that is by changing it from a list of less than one possibilities to discussing what is impossible. So we're going to shift the burden of proof. Okay.
So
I'm not saying that if we don't have a possibility, we can't show that the possibility exists, then we cannot honestly say that there is a possibility. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it is impossible. That's like when you don't believe something to be true, it doesn't necessarily mean that you believe it to be false.
Right.
Okay.
This is, and I agree with all that. And this is when I was asked, I'm paraphrasing what I was asked, but I was essentially asked, can you prove that the phrase not possible and impossible are two different things, meaning two different things? And I could not find evidence to back that up.
So
I had to concede that those are the same thing.
So we have a list of zero possibilities. Mm-hmm. And having no possibility is being retranslated into an impossibility.
Can you define? Can you prove that the phrase "not possible" and "impossible" are different definitions?
Yeah, we don't have a possibility to discuss. That doesn't mean that it is impossible. It's just not possible in the sense that there is no possibility. So we could say that, you know, in a deeper conversation, we can find things that would, the aspects of the specific thing that would be impossible, and God is defined as being impossible. I mean, God is defined as by his miraculous nature, and miracles are impossible by definition. They are they are things that defy the laws of physics, which means they would be physically impossible, and God would be thus impossible by extension or definition.
Yeah.
But that's not what we're saying here. We're talking about whether a possibility exists. Now, people, and this is contrasted not with saying that it is impossible, but is contrasted with the people who say that anything is possible, meaning that monkeys might fly out of my ass,
right,
or that the cow could jump over the moon, what have you, or that a man could walk on water. There's a number of things that we know to be impossible.
You're preaching to the choir here.
Okay,
like I literally agree with you up until
I'm just clarifying a point.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. Can you share your screen and like Google it for me, because I Googled as much as I could definitions between not possible and impossible, and I could not find anything other than they are true similes. They are the same thing. And I eventually had to concede that that saying something is not possible is the same thing as saying something that is impossible, and that we are committing the fallacy of equivocation.
So when we say that there is no evidence of a thing,
that's fine. That's fine.
By the same logic means that there is evidence of no thing.
That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. The equivocation.
Not having evidence of a thing does not necessarily prove that there is no thing. By that logic, if we say that there's no evidence of God, that proves there is no God. No, nobody's going to side up with that.
So when it comes to evidence, there's three things that we could say. We could say that there is evidence for, there's no evidence, and there's evidence against, right? When we say something is possible, you could say there's evidence for that. When we have evidence against, we could say it's impossible. Okay. But there is not a valid word with using possibility to describe the second option. So the equivocation that was happening is the second option and the third one together. And so I was corrected.
Well, if there is no possibility, that just means that we don't even have anything to talk about yet.
Yes. The correct thing to say is that we have found no possibility. That is the correct thing to say. But you said that there is no possibility, and that's the equivocation.
Right. Without a precedent or parallel or verified phenomenon indicating that such possibility exists, we can't say that any possibility exists. There is no possibility to consider. We have a list of zero possibilities.
Aaron, the sentence after that, where you said there's no possibilities to exist, to consider, that one is equivocated. The thing you said before is correct.
The person trying to use this argument, you mean? The person who does not
conceded to this argument
and knows they cannot produce a possibility to consider now has to equivocate to turn no possibilities, a list of zero possibilities, into a statement of impossibility. Whereas, and this is what I see all the time, when you don't believe in God, it means that you believe in no God. It means that you have to have a positive belief in no Godism. Much like materialism or naturalism is where from my perspective, that's where I don't assume magic, and where they want to change the burden of proof and switch it over to where I have a positive belief that no magic exists, because everything has to be reframed so that they can get out of the hole they would be in otherwise.
Gotcha. I'll concede the phrase that no possibility to consider is correct, but you cannot say that there's just no possibility. The consider part is important.
You can't claim a possibility.
Yes,
we're still at a list of zero. I'm open to the list becoming larger by one.
Oh, so for sure.
The logical argument then would be that you should show a possibility, and then we would have a list of one.
I would love for you to prove me wrong that not possible and impossible are not similes, because I cannot find any evidence showing otherwise. Can you share your screen in like Google? Because I would love to see it.
You want
or maybe there's a scientific
Google, not possible versus impossible.
Sure.
Because no, first I'm going to check chat here.
Sure, go ahead.
All right, because I haven't been following, and we did pick up some viewers. Let me see if I can scan this real quick. There's a lot here all at once.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, we picked up a couple hundred people in the last few minutes that we've been talking. So I'm not going to be able to scan through all the chats here.
So, Arn, I want to be clear. The thing I had to concede to this person was that not possible and impossible are not two separate things the way that you and I have been describing it. And I had to concede that they are the same thing.
Sachs says, I think the miscommunication here seems to be in between no possibility being a lack of noun and not possible being an adjective. That's part of it. I don't know how I would Google not possible versus impossible.
The definition. Just Google the definition.
Up words now.
Yeah, this is the accusation is equivocation.
Okay. So impossible means not able to occur, exist, or be done. Okay. And now let's do not possible. How do you do not possible as a definition?
I believe what I Googled was, is not possible and impossible true synonyms? Is there any difference? And I could not find a single difference.
Okay. So it says not possible means something is unable to occur or be achieved. Okay. In either way,
we don't know that. But that's a positive indication saying that something cannot happen.
Right. We need a way for it to happen before we have something to discuss.
Yes, I would agree that is the phrase for the term possible, but there is no word regarding possible that shows one way or the other. It's like
wait, what do you mean?
Says, I'll give an example.
Okay, so we have the word impossible, which negates the event, and then we have the not possible, which meaning that we have no possibility. So we have a lack of something to indicate the event. So I'm not trying to
substantiate those are different things.
But we don't have anything to indicate the event.
Yes, you haven't substantiated that impossible and not possible are two different things. I will concede as soon as you do that.
I thought impossible would negate the event.
Yeah.
Okay. And not possible means we have nothing to indicate the event.
That's not what you read. That's not what the definition said.
Okay.
Read it again.
I understand the definition says something is unable to occur or be achieved because there is no possibility.
Is that what it says? Can you share your screen?
That is what I read, yes. Not possible means something is unable to occur or be achieved.
You just Googled this?
Yes.
Okay.
So in order to consider that something could have happened, we now need to hear a possibility for it. Right? Or we're at a non-start point.
Now that does not see what you're looking at.
That does not mean that there is no possibility we don't yet know. Because I'm very keen on not claiming knowledge we don't have.
Right.
That's why I say the truth is what the facts are. There are many things that I've had to explain this in a number of debates. There are many things that may be true that are as yet unknown, but we cannot say that we know that they are true because that becomes a lie. That becomes pretending to know things we don't know, which is what faith is all about.
I would love to see what you're seeing because I could Google it myself, but I'm not sure.
What are you talking about?
The definition of not possible.
How many times do I really need to share the screen because you don't believe me when I just read it?
I want to make sure what it says.
I'm reading AI. I don't like that they put AI and replaced Wikipedia with that.
Same.
Yeah. So there's differences, English language usage and stack exchange between not possible and impossible. When we say it's not fair or unfair, there's a whole article explaining the differences there.
Are you not able to share your screen?
Yes, I am able to share my screen. Okay. I'm just trying not to bore the audience.
Oh,
that's why I was reading it to you.
Gotcha. I'm a visual person, and
okay.
This is again the accusation that was made to me, which I was quoting you, was a fallacy of equivocation. So the words do matter.
Equivocation would be where you're using two different definitions in different contexts that would have different different definitions in those different contexts, but that you're mixing them together for deceptive effect. It's like when you say that you have faith in your wife, but you have no faith in God. You're using two different contexts of the word faith, and they both have different definitions.
Okay. Then if I'm not using the correct fallacy name for essentially mixing up definitions for the same word,
well,
whatever
mixing
that
up
is,
different definitions for the same word would be equivocation, but that's not what we're doing here.
Okay. I would love to see it. I would love to walk away from this wrong, because I loved saying there's
the article I'm reading on english.stackexchange.com says, and all I did was Google what was it that I go? Well, never mind. I don't think I can find it easily enough. I'm not sure whether to say both of these sentences have the same meaning or not. It was some superficially there's no difference between them. But if we say something is not possible or something is impossible, then there is really an observable difference in my first language. Okay, well, I don't know what they're talking about their first language. Hence the question, is there a difference between the preceding two sentences in English? So I don't think there's a difference because the context we're using, because I'm not trying to negate the event. I'm talking about there's something that there's not something to indicate the event.
Yes. So
to me, the only difference in style, one word unfair versus two words not fair, the same for impossible and not possible, both being cannot be done for some reason or another. In response, we would never say it's not possible. I don't want to read a whole fucking article, but I mean, people can find it. But you understand the context that I'm using.
I totally understand the context you're using. I've argued exactly what you're arguing before for years.
Okay.
And I just had to concede that because impossible and not possible are literally the same thing.
Okay, let's say that they are.
Yeah.
Do we have a list of impossibilities?
Do we? Oh, yeah.
We do?
I mean,
well, I guess on the God,
like a deistic God, something
do.
that's unfalsifiable, no, of course not.
On the
but
God
for
question,
every
we actually
other...
do have a list of impossibilities, and that's a separate list from the list of possibilities. The list of possibilities, we have 0. But the list of impossibilities, we now have a list of all these different things. You know, that you can't have a mind, which by definition is a product of a brain, which can't be you can't have a disembodied mind by definition. Again, it can't be the miraculous nature. It can't exist outside this universe, but also affect, material causes within this universe, all of that. So there's a number of impossibilities, and these are distinct from the possibilities, which we still don't have. We have quite a list of impossibilities, so these are different.
For sure. We know Christianity is impossible, Mormonism is impossible.
Okay.
Yeah, basically. If
well,
not,
you understand there's a difference in context between we can build a list of impossibilities and we can build a list of possibilities, and they will be different.
Yeah, there's 0. We know of no possibilities for any God. Yeah, no problem with saying that. The clarification is known. The difference between that was made clear to me between evidence and possible is that evidence has inside of it the understanding that it's something that is known for the same reason. Excuse me?
Evidence has inside of it something that is known. The something that is known is a fact.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas a fact is a point of data that is either not in dispute, meaning we both take it to be true, or it is indisputable in that it is objectively verifiable. It is a thing we can demonstrate. We can verify that this is in fact a fact.
Yeah. Okay. With possibility, we don't have that for the same reason that we can't say that we could say, yes, the opposite of truth is untruth. But what about the things that we don't know are true, or we don't know that are not true? There's no truth word in there, and the same thing goes for possibility. So there's not a accurate word that we could say with possibility unless we're adding there's no known possibility of God. That would be the correct statement.
Yeah. So if the list is still 0, then we have nothing to consider.
Yeah, and that's it. It's a small technicality.
I'm missing something, or one of us.
Sure. We went from saying there's no possibility of God, which is untrue, because
how many possibilities are there then?
Because saying not possible is the same thing as saying impossible.
Except that it's not, because we have two different lists.
Prove it. I would
we
love
have a
for you to
list
prove
of it. We have a list of possibilities, which are the things that
Mhm.
indicate the thing might happen.
Mhm.
And then we have the list of impossibilities, which negate the thing ever happening. Two different lists, two different usages of the word. When we're talking about whether there's a possibility of God, if you have one, then I'd be happy to add it to the list, which is currently at 0, and we can take 0 up to 1.
Yeah.
But if you don't have that, then we still have no possibility. Having no possibility is not the same thing as having an impossibility. If we talk about God, yeah, we can pull up all kinds of impossibilities and they could be an additional list. But there's a number of other things that we could look at that may not have impossibilities attached to them. There's no possibility for it, but not necessarily an impossibility against it.
The way that you are using no possibility in this definition, I agree with. But the accusation is that you and I were equivocating no possibility to mean something other than impossible.
You're not equivocating.
So you prove that no possibility means impossible.
No. I said if we have a list of possibilities, a possibility now indicates that something could exist. The impossibility negates that that thing could exist. Mm-hmm. Having no indication that the thing could happen is not the same thing as negating that the thing could happen. Not necessarily.
Okay, I got it.
It's the same subtlety as saying I don't believe you means that I believe you to be false. I've had this argument with philosophers before, who have insisted that if I don't believe someone is telling the truth, that necessarily means that I think that they are telling a lie. That's not true. If somebody tells me something and I don't believe them, somebody tells me that I've won $1 million. I get a phone call, somebody tells me I've won $1 million. I want to believe that. I really do. But I'm wise enough to know better. I've seen too many scams. So while I want that to be true, and I want to do what I can to verify whether that is true, I'm not ready to give out my credit card information or my bank account information or my social security number, just hoping that that's going to be true. And so I'm just going to buy into that way. I've seen other people do that. I've seen other people taken for scams that way. Now I'm still going to hold that there's a possibility that could be true. People have won that amount of money. There's the precedent. There's the parallel. There's a bunch of different contests that do that. There's the verified phenomenon. We see people win lotteries and such every day, and other people gain huge inheritances and stuff like that they didn't expect. So all of that is there. There's a possibility that could happen. That doesn't mean I believe it, and not believing it doesn't mean that I believe that the person is lying. I haven't made up my mind about that.
If before we understood what quantum mechanics were, we couldn't say it was not possible because we had no evidence to support it before we had evidence.
Well, if you don't have a theory, then there's no way to test the theory, and so you would have to have some kind of parameters, right?
Yeah, I'm talking about an unfalsifiable God, which I understand is completely meaningless.
Right.
Yeah. I get the way that you're using the phrase impossibility. That being said,
have you ever had the argument where somebody tells you that if you don't believe what someone says, it means that you believe that they're lying?
Yes.
Yeah. And that not having a belief in God means that you actively have a positive belief that there is no God? Have you gotten that one?
I'm sorry, I was distracted. Say that one more time.
One that I have often heard. I mean, even before I was an atheist myself, back when I was a Christian, in fact, I was told that if you don't believe in God, it means that you actively believe there is no God. That it is a positive belief in no Godism. Mm-hmm. And that materialism somehow bears the burden of proof to prove that there is no magic. Rather than, the superstition having to prove that there is magic. It's all of this is reversing the burden of proof, because the guy cannot come up with a reason to believe in the God. He cannot come up with the possibility, so he's going to accuse you of equivocation, and he's going to try to play these word games.
I could not substantiate the difference between impossible and no possibility,
okay, well,
because I believe that no possibility is a truth claim.
Okay. I'm not saying that having no possibility is an impossibility.
Right. And with that definition,
possibilities would indicate that something could happen.
And with your definition, it's sound.
The thing could happen. An impossibility is a negation of the thing happening. This will be the last time I explain this.
I agree. Okay? I agree.
Okay. Very good. Now we know that there is definitely a difference between possible and impossible.
Yeah.
So if we have no indication that
you mean no possibility, and
if we have no indication that the thing could happen, then why are we even talking about it? But having no indication that it could happen is not a negation that the thing could ever happen. Got it?
Not possible is still a truth claim.
No possibility does not mean not possible, though you could take it that way.
Oh, really?
I understand if you do, but we're still talking about a list of possibilities that has not exceeded 0.
I get the difference now.
Okay.
So,
all right.
No possibility means something different than
possibility indicates that something could happen. Impossibility negates that it could happen.
Very well.
Okay. All right. I'm going to close this out. I don't see a need to continue on, but I do have a couple hundred people that signed up for 400 people watching now. So that was unexpected.
Thank you for that. I will concede.
Thank you very much for that.
Absolutely.
Okay. Good night.